All right, let's get in the middle of this, gang. So everybody else will be jumping on. So we're going to talk about success, and I'm going to share some stories with you, and it got me thinking. There's a lot of you inspired this, and I'm gonna talk about this. Hey, Miss Patty. So a friend of mine, a really close friend of mine, has a very popular podcast, and one of the gentlemen that he had on his podcast was and is a multi-billionaire. And he was sharing this story with me a while back, and this is what got me thinking about success and where we all are. He said he's in California. I don't remember exactly where, but they're sitting on the back of this unbelievable mansion. He said that sits right on the water. It has a infinity pool that just looks out over the ocean. He said this place, you can't even wrap your mind around how huge and beautiful this thing is. I mean, guys, you imagine it's a multi-billionaire. And Mitch said, he said, we're sitting there and they're having a drink and we're just talking. And he said, I turned and I looked at him and I said, is this as good as it gets? And he's thinking, it can't get any better than this. And he said, Mitch, my buddy told me, he said, Mitch, and he said he caught his breath and he kind of teared up and he looked at me and he said, I sure hope not. The guy had every possession that you could possibly buy. A billionaire. He had the house, he had the cars, he had the planes, but he was alone. He'd went through divorce. His kids didn't want anything to do with him other than getting his money. He really didn't have a substantial quality life. And my buddy told me that he said it really affected him. And when he shared that with me, I'm picturing this too. I'm thinking, as a billionaire, we would all think, you give me $1 billion, we're going to be happy. That's not the case. That's not the case. And so what happens is we all are searching for, we're chasing this word called success. And man, I think what I want to do tonight, because we all work so hard, you all work so hard, and we all are at different levels. There's some of us are seeing 80 a week, some of us are 180 a week, some of us are 180 a day, and everything in between. But I'm going to tell you something. When I was preparing for this talk, there's a few of you that really inspired me, and this led me down this rabbit hole of what I want to share with you all. Stephanie Murphy, Zarek Bartley over in Amsterdam, Tyler Alsop in Springfield, David Waltrip down in Texas, Derek Legg, Amy Van in Missouri, Jim Campbell, Katie Short, and man, you guys, and there's so many more. Don't get me wrong, there's so many more of you that we've talked. And I listen to your stories and I hear about what you're doing and I see the effort you're putting in and you all, and by the time I get done with this, you all are going to know who I'm talking about that inspired this. So I'm going to go way back because I really want to I want you guys to think about something and what success means and how we achieve it. So, and many of you have heard this story, but I want to come at it from a different angle because I really got to thinking about this. Back in 1985, I'm a senior in high school, and there was a big bodybuilder in school, and I made a decision that I wanted to be like him. Now, you got to understand, I'm 5'11", pushing 6 foot tall, maybe 150 pounds with my jacket on. I mean, I was scrawny, but I was going to be a bodybuilder. How? Where? When do I do this, right? These are the questions, where, when, and how. So the first thing I did is after graduation, from just not like 2-3 blocks from my house where I grew up, was an old Gold's Gym. And I walked in. I just walked through the front door and I surrounded myself with this environment that I knew nothing about. You guys understand, the only gym I'd ever been in ever in my life was the little bitty gym in the back of our high school. That's all I'd ever known. And I'd never seen a bodybuilding gym. I never even had met another bodybuilder other than the kid I went to high school with. But I'd seen him on TV. I'd read Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding in the 8th grade. But this is what, inside of me, I made a decision I was going to be a bodybuilder. So I walk in and I look around and I went up to the front and I said, I want a membership, and we talked about that. And I just wandered around the gym, and I went. This is 1985, gang, and I could still remember it like it was yesterday. It was such an impactful time. And I walked to the back room where the leg room was, where they did squats and stuff. And the largest human being I'd ever seen in my life was back there. Blonde hair guy. His legs were bigger than my waist. They were enormous, and he was squatting so much weight. And he squatted, and I'm just standing there, and I'm looking at him. And I just introduced myself, and I said, I want to be a bodybuilder. And he's just looking at me like, oh, kid, oh, my God. I can only imagine. I wish I lost track of him. I can't run him down. I would give anything to find Timmy Miles and find out where he's at, just tell him this story, because he probably don't even remember it. And he said, all right. He said, you want to be a bodybuilder? And he took me to the squat rack next to him, and he put a bar on it, just a bar, no weight. And he said, and he showed me how to do it. He said, I want you to squat this bar every day, 100 times a day, every day for 1 month, and then you come back to me. So I know what he was doing. He was testing to see if I really want to be a bodybuilder. I was there 6 days a week. I never missed. I got under that stupid bar, and everybody else was squatting all this weight and doing all these things. Now I started doing other things. I started work, but I never missed. And then eventually he let me put some weight on, and I started to work out, and I started to do some things. Well, then along the way, my parents decided to sell the house. My dad quit his job, and they moved 60 miles away, right? Well, I had already prepared to go to undergrad. I had nowhere to live. So me and my best friend at the time, we moved in with 3 other guys. There was 5 of us living in and I'm not exaggerating, about a 350, maybe 500 square foot house. It was a house. It was, you walked through the front door, there was a little bitty living room, there was a bedroom, and there was a little kitchen and a tiny bathroom. We had 3 sets of bunk beds next to each other inside this room. There was 5 of us living in one tiny little bitty house. I was working at McDonald's. I mean, I literally on the weekends and trying to go to school. I never missed a workout. I work at McDonald's so I could afford to eat, because they gave me my food at half price. And I was eating so much of it. I ate there so much they made me eat it at work because they didn't think I could eat that much. And then we got tired of that, and then me and my buddy, my best friend, we moved out, and then we found another place. Gang, it was $75 a month for rent. That's how crappy this place was. I never missed a workout. I would drive down to my mom and dad. They owned a meat packing company, and they would give me free hamburger and free steaks and stuff. And I showed up, and I worked out, and I surrounded myself with the environment, and I kept going. And I was there again. Listen, back then, this was 1985. I would go to the gym 6 days a week, 2 to 3 hours at a time. I didn't want to leave. I just was immersed in it. Well, then, as many of you know the story, I was in a serious car accident in the fall of 1985, and I broke my back. Long story short, I was out for about 6 to 8 weeks. My uncle started adjusting me and back in the gym, and I started working out again. That's when I met another kid about a year younger than me. His name was Dave, and he was doing the same thing I was, and we became trainer partners. And Dave was He was He was an only child. His parents were older, and his dad was a pastor. They had money. I had none. Poor and broke doesn't even cover what I was. I could barely afford to eat. And he got all that back then, all the protein shakes and all the this and all of that. He got a subscription to all the bodybuilding magazines. And so he would get the new magazine, and he would read that. He would give me his old ones, and I would just study those bodybuilding magazines. I immersed myself in it. And then anything that he tried, any kind of powder or new thing that he didn't like, he just gave it to me. I would devour it. Man, it was nonstop. Approximately 1 year from the time I made a decision to become a bodybuilder, and parents moving, and basically scraping, and car accident, breaking my back, and just everything that possibly could have went wrong, could have went south, could have kept me from getting to the gym or derailing me or keeping me from my goal of being a successful and becoming a bodybuilder was my success. Everything that could have happened did happen to stop me. 1 year to the month when I made the decision, I stood on stage in Springfield, Missouri in 1986, and I won Teenage Mr. Missouri. I was a successful bodybuilder. Why does that matter? May 1988, just a few years later, I made a decision through a series of events that I was going to be a chiropractor. How, when, where? Same questions, same exact questions. I go to SMS. I walk in. I take my entrance exam. Sitting next to me is my best friend that I lived with in one of those crappy houses. He's taking his entrance exam to get into back to SMS to go to medical school. I started undergrad, and I got through my undergrad by the grace of God. Then I moved to Kansas City. I went to pre-professional program out in Park City. Some of you listen to this were there. Then I applied for chiropractic school, and I had to go in and petition because my GPA was so low they weren't going to let me in. Then they said, okay, we'll let you in because you qualified for the loans, but you're going to have to take the 12 try. We're not going to let you in 9 try. And I had to go back and petition again. I didn't want to do 12 try. I wanted to do 9. I wanted to get it done. I did CLEP testing. I did everything that you could possibly imagine, and then I got in. First trimester, very first trimester, my student loan doesn't come in. There's something wrong with it. When I say kids, I had no money. I had no money. Broke. I didn't know how I was going to pay bills, and my parents didn't have money. My mom could have sent me $50, but I'm living in Kansas City. I can't pay rent. I can't do anything. And my uncle was a chiropractor, and one of the guys that he went to school with was actually the vice president of the time. And I went to his office and I sat down and I said, here's the story. And he wrote me a personal check for $1,000 to pay me back when your student loans come in. I mean, God had his hand on my shoulder through this whole thing. So then I meet Dr. Gibson, and I listened to everything he said. I surrounded myself with the environment of chiropractic, and I listened to everything he said. Everybody else made no sense to me. All the other instructors, and they were some nice guys and stuff, but they weren't talking anything that made sense. But Hugo spoke a language that resonated. I understood him, and I understood that you take your hands and you move a bone, and I learned to adjust. And listen, if you could talk to my classmates, if Brad Schaefer is on here, he'll tell you, most of them, it took him several years after chiropractic school to recover from me. I adjusted. Try one. I was adjusting everybody. I know how to do this. Here, lay down. Then we graduate. Get out of school. Oh my gosh. Train wreck after train wreck after train wreck. Failure after failure. I failed part 3 of national boards 3 times. The only great thing that happened to me is I met my wife and my 2 daughters, and that pulled me out of the hole. But then, after failing, then I go to Oklahoma. I take the Oklahoma test, and I get an Oklahoma license. We moved to Oklahoma. One failure after another. One failed associateship after another. One letdown after another. One wondering if I made the right decision. Feeling like the biggest failure. Letting my new family down. I mean, when I think about it, I get emotional and I get a pit in my stomach. And when I'm talking to many of you and you're going through things, I understand. I understand sitting there in the worst possible place that you could be and not understanding how you got there and what you're going to do, but then you get up every day, right? And then I go to my first practice management meeting. And I surround myself with some of the most amazing people. I surround myself with Jim Campbell. I surround myself with Pat Maddock, Brett Kester, Gary Sanders. Those guys become my big brothers, and many others. Jim Waddell, that some of you may know, but these guys, they become my big brothers. They put their arm around me and they said, "We got you." I surrounded myself with the right environment, and they taught me something. One adjustment at a time. Now, back then in this group, we didn't have videos. We didn't have a whole program like we have now. We just had these 2 tiny little flimsy paperback blue books, and it had all these words in it, and I studied them every day. The reported findings, I can still do it to this day. I was in that group for 17 years. It's been years since I've read that. It's been years. And I can tell you, I've got some good news and I've got some not so good news. And the good news is I memorize it. I read the blue books 100 times a day in between patients. I would stand and I would read in between patients, downtime. I would read. Not only did I read, on my way to the office, I would leave my house. It was a 25-minute drive. Every day, I would listen to Sigafus. I would listen to Reggie Gold. I would listen to DeMartini over and over and over. Not sometimes, not once in a while. Every single time I got in my truck, that was what I was listening to, as long as the family wouldn't, and they didn't want to listen to it. But if I was by myself driving, I was listening to it. And I was putting it in my brain. I read, Are You the Doctor, Doctor? Life Without Fear. Always, all the time. I went to every seminar. Shannon and I both, we went to every chiropractic office that would allow us to come in and observe. And we watched, and we observed, and we took them to lunch, and we went to dinner with them, and we asked questions. And then we applied, and we made mistakes. And we failed, and we succeeded, and then we did it all over again. Never missed a meeting. Then I started having meetings in my office and inviting chiropractors and bringing them in and teach. I would learn these things along the way, these little techniques and little things about I'm growing, I'm starting to do better, and I wanted to share. And gang, I did this when I opened my practice, when I wanted to be a successful chiropractor. I applied all these things 7 days a week. Now, I did it while being married, dating my wife, raising 3 kids. Shannon and I, we raised a family. But I promise you, if you was to pull her aside and say, was he really like that back then? She would tell you, obsessed. Absolutely obsessed. Now, I didn't have a green book at dinner, and I didn't read it to my kids. I wasn't that crazy. But if I had downtime, if I was by myself, if I was doing something other than with the family, everything had to do with chiropractic. Zarek, you know what I'm talking about. That new office, our office, we went from 100 a week, 104, 180, 90, 105, 102, 104, 178, 198. And then we went to 200, and then we went to 300, and we went to 400. And then we went to 500, and then we went to 200 a day. Then we went to 200 2 days in a week. Then we went to 600 a week. We started out our very first year. We collected 260,000. The next year, 440,000. The next year, 600,000. We grew by $200,000 a year until we broke $1 million. And then we've not been below $1 million since then. Now let me tell you something. I want you all to understand something. How did the names that I mentioned earlier, how did they inspire this thought process and everything that I've been through and everything that I'm sharing with you? I want you guys to follow me on these things. Why I'm sharing these with you. You all made a decision. You made a decision and you joined foundations. You made a decision, you went to chiropractic school. You got out. You realized they didn't teach you anything, like they didn't me. And you joined foundations, and you surrounded yourself with a culture. And then Stephanie Murphy, you went in and you made one adjustment at a time. David Waltrip, you took one idea and applied it. Zarek Bartley, you executed every idea that you got, and then you did it again, and you did it again, and you did it again. Amy Van, you showed up every day wanting to be a successful chiropractor, and you applied everything that you're learning. Now listen, y'all. I know every one of you listening to this, and I know all of you that I'm talking about that inspired this, I know you all have so much more to your story. And so do I. And we're not going to bore you with all the details. But to me, Success is measured and accomplished by a decision: where, how, and when. Then you surround yourself with a culture. That's what you've done. And then you watch the videos, you ask questions, you go to the meetings, you reach out to each other. There's so many of you that are on accountability text messages, and I talk to you and you said, yeah, we got this group, we talk every week, or you guys are getting together on garage nights, and you're coming together as a community, and you're surrounding yourself with this culture. And then it's one adjustment, one focused, intentional adjustment. And then it's one visit. It turns into a whole visit, a whole dynamic behind the visit. Then it's hiring one new staff or another new staff. Then it turns into one shift, 1 3-hour shift, Stephanie Murphy. Then it turns into a day. It turns into a day, Jim Campbell, that Katie Short, it turns into a day that like no other day. Then it turns into a month in your practice, and you become successful in your office. But then, on top of all that, it comes from one workout, and then you do another workout. It's one weekend that you go hiking, and then you hike again, you hike another mountain, then you hike another mountain. You get 10-mile bike ride in or a 100-mile bike ride in. One good meal, and then you have another one, and you eliminate things that you shouldn't be eating, shouldn't be drinking, shouldn't be doing, and you replace it with things that you should be, one at a time. One at a time. Then it's one book. You read one good book. Are You the Doctor, Doctor? The Moral and Religious Duty of a Chiropractor. Wayne Dyer, The Power of Intention. Herbert Ross Reaver. One Cause, One Cure. I surround them one at a time, every day, every day. One date night. One I love you. One daddy-daughter dance. One text message to your kid. You good? And then you do it again. And then you do it again. And then you do it again. I every single morning that I'm here at this house, when I go in and take a shower, as I'm taking a shower, we have this open air shower, and I look up, and on the shelf, Shannon has a picture in a frame, just words, and I read it every morning. And this is what it says: Dear life, it's beautiful here. And to me, unlike the billionaire that has quote unquote everything, to me, when I can look up at that and read that, dear life, it is beautiful here. And when I can feel on the inside, yes, it is. I can smile. And when I look up at that every morning, there are some mornings that as I'm taking a shower, I get emotional. Sometimes I get tears in my eyes when things are going on in my life. Yes, yes, it is. Life is beautiful. Okay, that is success. To me, that is successful. That is what we work so hard for. And I want it all for all of you. I want you all to be the most successful people. And it is not measured in your collections. It is not measured in your patient visits. It is not measured in the house you live in or the cars you drive. It is not measured in any of those things. Here's what it's measured in. Every day you get up and you do the things necessary again and again and again. You do not make excuses. You do not waste time. You do not take this beautiful life that we've been given, and you do not neglect the opportunities that we've been given. That, to me, is probably the greatest level of success that we could all achieve. This is what I want for you. So as I was preparing for this, I know this is a complete different talk than I normally do. You guys thought maybe you might be getting a philosophy talk. We'll do those more. You might be getting a procedure talk or a big butt whipping, and that's not what I wanted to do tonight. What I wanted you to do is I wanted you to all to take a step back, take a great deep breath, look at your lives, look at the opportunity that you have, and ask yourself, what does success look like to me? Make a decision. What, where, when? When is right now? What do you want? Where are you going to find it? It's all right in front of you, every single one of you. I don't care where you are. If you want a more successful relationship, just one I love you after another, after another, one date night after another, after another. If you want to have a stronger relationship with your kids, one text message, one daddy-daughter dance, one lunch. If you got adult kids like I do, I go to lunch with my kids when I get an opportunity. Just talk. My grandkids. I took my grandson, my oldest grandson, him and I went and hung out a couple weeks ago, just the two of us. And I listened, and I let him talk. In your practice, if you want a successful chiropractic office, when you show up, it's one adjustment at a time. It's one word at a time. One very specific, well-chosen word. Be, like I always tell you, be interested, not interesting. It's one conversation with your staff. It's one 15-minute training session, one 10-minute meeting, and then you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. And just like all those years ago when I made a decision that I was going to be this thing called a bodybuilder, that I had no clue even what that meant, I understood that I had to show up every single day. And then I made this decision that I was going to be this chiropractor. And when I decided to be a chiropractor, all I knew about chiropractic, my Uncle Bill popped my back. But I made a decision, this is what I was going to do. I didn't know what it meant, but I showed up every single day. And I went through hell and high water to get there. And then here I sit today in all of this. And I get, the number one question I get asked is, how did you do it? Where's your certainty come from? How did you create all this? One at a time, gang. One at a time. Every single day. All right? I hope and pray this resonated with you. I hope you absorbed it. I hope you understand that one of the things that I think that affected me more than anything through the last, 25, 26 years of being a chiropractor is all the other chiropractors that I reached out to help. Even back when I was seeing like 150 a week, 170 a week, I was holding meetings in my office inviting chiropractors, and I just wanted them to hear something positive. I would go into chiropractors' offices and introduce myself. Hey, I'm having a meeting in my office. Why don't you come? Why? Well, we'd love to hang out with you. We get chiropractors together and talk about practice. I mean, you cannot fail by giving. So there's so many chiropractors out there that would kill to have our opportunity to be in this environment, to hear this message. It's up to us if we're going to help them or not. All right? Hope you understand this. I hope it resonated with you. I'm going to give you all about 5 or 10 minutes. If you got any questions, I'm going to go ahead and put those out to you right now. Ask questions. Hey, Brother Joey. Hey, Miss Rhonda. Malachi. Malachi, you're in that list of what inspired me. Every time I talk to you, you inspire me. Okay, I'm waiting on questions, y'all. I should have told you to get your questions ready. I apologize. That's my fault. All right, gang. So it is 7:32. A little bit short of a meeting. I know many of you have lots and lots of things to do. Rebecca Cates, Blake Walters. Hey, James. So if we don't have any questions, oh, hang on. Oh, hey, Taylor, just finished your day. So listen, this is what's great about this group. We have so many young doctors in here, and we've got so many veteran doctors and everybody in between. So go back and watch this again. If you come up with questions later on, if you didn't have a chance to get on here and ask a question, just ask a question on here. Send me a message personally. Now listen, last thing. Oh, Malachi, how do you stay steadfast over all the years? How does your consistent grind not wear on you? Man, Malachi, that's an amazing question, and I look at it. That I think about it. I don't know. I think honestly, Malachi, I'm not going to give you some cliche BS answer. I honestly think that my why, and I know this sounds silly, but my why, my purpose was so big, it was meant to be, that it wasn't an option, right? I don't think I have it in me to go, yeah, I'd like to do that, but it's not who I am, Malachi. Um, when I made the decision to be a bodybuilder, and you got to understand, that was 1985 when I made the decision. I did my last bodybuilding show in 2004. That's a long time. That's a lot of that's a lot of squats. I made a decision that I was going to do this, and I just didn't want to quit. I continued to improve, continued to go. When I decided to be a chiropractor, it wasn't to graduate chiropractic school with a degree, and then to get out, and then just to see 100 a week, right? So the decisions that I made, Malachi, are so much bigger than just I'm just going to do it. I'm not just going to do it. I'm going to do it at the best of my ability. That's how I'm wired. Even with this coaching group, when I decided to do this, I didn't say, well, you know what? I'm going to start foundations, and I hope 10 or 15 people join, and it gives me something to do on the weekends. Hell no. I created this program to influence and inspire and hopefully make a difference in the profession for generations to come. Malachi, you and I just had this conversation that one day when I'm gone, I want this thing to carry on and influence generations 50 years from now. I want a young chiropractor coming out of school listening to this message and becoming successful for everything we did. It's bigger than us, Malachi, and that's what keeps me. It's not a grind. It's not a grind. It's a privilege. Malachi Bolton. It's not a grind. It is an honor, and it is a privilege, and it is a job that has been given to us by our God. So I want you to look at it that way. David Waltrip, what was the book you held up? Life Without Fear. Oh, you don't know Life Without Fear? David Waltrip. Oh, that's not it. Life Without Fear. Where's it at? It's right here. No, that's Pygmy. Oh, hang on. Nope, it's as simple as that. Get that one. Life Without Fear is Fred Barge. You go on fredbarge.com and get that book. Okay? And then all the others. All right. Any more questions? I think we give you all enough time. Dr. Kim James. I know, and I'm getting some personal messages, and y'all are telling me how powerful it was, and I wanted to speak. Man, I always do this, but I wanted to touch with you somewhere different. We've been given a gift as chiropractors that is so powerful and so precious. We get to go to our office and we get to communicate with people and love on them, and we get to take our hands and make an adjustment, and we get to, like Alicia said, we get to amplify their life. We get to see things. Okay, so this is crazy. So I want to share this with you. Today, I've told you the story about little Bryce that some of you heard, some of you hadn't. 4 years old, literally dying of asthma. Come in at 4. He was so sick, his skin was coming off. He was chalk gray. 11 different asthma medications every single day. For 2 years, he was on a church prayer list. He could not leave his home. He was taking an adult rescue inhaler just to keep him alive. I'm not making this stuff up. I gave him his first adjustment at 4 years old. His atlas was rocked sideways, and I adjusted it, and pink poured in his face. And he, all the way home, he threw up. He filled the whole back floorboard full of puke, from puking all those drugs up. He went home. He took a nap. He got up and asked to go outside and play for the first time in 2 years. That child had not been sick a day in his life since then. The healthiest child. I've told you that story. It's a long story. His mother called me and said, we don't know what's going on. Bryce came in today with his wife, and they're due in June. I'm getting ready to take care of his baby in a few short months. Malachi, a grind? Really? Nope. An honor and a privilege and a gift from God. Please, please, please hear me, you all, on this. And I want you to be successful. There's no reason you shouldn't be successful. And the way, Zach, that you're going to be successful at anything is you're going to get up every day with the right intention, with the right purpose, and you're going to give one specific intentional adjustment, one conversation, one phone call, one public talk, one booth, whatever it takes, and you don't quit, and you're going to do it every day until you reach your goal. And when you reach your goal, you're going to set a new goal, Jim Campbell. Y'all hear me? All right. 7:38. Now, for all of you who are watching this from the UK, tomorrow, I will see you all Friday morning. Okay? The adjusting class will be one of the best we've ever had. Then we'll see everybody on Saturday morning for our UK workshop. I think there's 6 or 7 countries going to be there on Friday, Saturday. So this is going to be an amazing UK workshop and adjusting class. All right? So if you need me, reach out. If you have more questions, reach out. I want you to take this information I shared with you. I want these thoughts in your head. I want you to think about your own life. I want you guys, every one of you, every single one of you, all of this, you all made a decision to get through chiropractic school. That wasn't easy. That was not easy. And if anyone on here said that chiropractic school was a walk in a park and a breeze, well then, I don't know. Then you're weird. I mean, I don't know. None of it wasn't easy for any of us. But you made a decision, you showed up every day, and you got it done. And you become successful. You got a degree. And think about many of you guys, many of you have ran marathons, and you've done this. You've done so many great things in your life. Apply the same things to this profession, the same things to your life, and there's no way you can fail. Have an amazing, amazing evening. I dearly love you all. Reach out and invite somebody to get in this environment with us. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.